Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. "I'm dreaming!" he yelled. "This is all a dream." Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself?
What the fuck? What?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing, but in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death.
Yes.
Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Yes. Yes.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
What's up, bud? Oh, you through the roof right now?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Oh
Yet there was not
no!
a single person here
Oh
either.
no!
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
How about we just three-way him in? Sure. What's up? So I'm playing this game right now called the Stanley Paradox, which the first time I saw it, I saw Lex
Staring at
Friedman playing it on like I don't know, he just like did a playthrough of it on YouTube. And it's like it's interesting. It's like a psychological experiment, bro. It's like because it's just like a guy narrating like the character's thoughts and like telling you what you're supposed to do, but it's like so like open 2 doors and be like Stanley went through the door on the left, and you're like but I really want to see what's behind the door on the right, and like so you go through the door on the left, and then he's like then Stanley came to these stairs, he went up the stairs, and like I went downstairs, and it just like fucking got me like stuck in this like loop of an exit and shit, and it's just like yeah, and then I redid it, and then I like took the door on the right and shit, and like I don't know, it's just a fucking weird little like game. I don't know. I think the point is to, like make you question reality, because like you show up to work one day and like nobody's at work and like no work comes in, and you just like stand up and you're like, oh, what do I do now? And it's like, I don't know. Just try it out. Give it a spin. It's free on PlayStation right now, bro. There you go. Nah. Mm, I have just like maybe Ultimate, yeah, but like not the one with like cloud gaming and all that shit. Ah, I don't know. I downloaded it. Oh, right. But no, dude, like when I hit you up earlier, there's a this podcast. Do you know who like the Sean Ryan podcast is? You know Sean Ryan? He's like this bald military dude that like yeah, he used to be in the military and now he just like fucking has a podcast, and like he's had like a series of podcast releases that are like pretty fucking crazy, bro. And like the latest was this lady like Dana something. And I love this woman because she's like she did what's called comparative religious studies, which is like essentially what we've done organically, like just like comparing all these different shits, and then like, coming to conclusions based off that. And I've seen her talk like several times, and this is like just like her most recent like, and I need to like get her books and shit, and like she puts out like academic papers, but like so yeah, so she went through essentially like Jesuit school, like all the people she went to school with um were like becoming priests and shit, you know what I mean? Like that's what they were doing, but she was just like different because she wasn't going to like affirm her faith or like be a priest. She was literally just going to like see what they're all about, like see what's going on, and like but it essentially gained her access to the Vatican archives eventually. And she went down this like at the beginning of the podcast, they go down this rabbit hole of like the concept of purgatory. And it's actually pretty trippy. Like purgatory is not mentioned anywhere in the Bible. And it was just like, well, I don't know. This bitch says it's not like the word purgatory. It's not the Bible, but who is she to know? I don't know. Right. Yeah, it might be like conceptually a thing, but like it was just never labeled as purgatory in the canon Bible. But anyway, like the idea existed like especially in Catholicism, you know? Like that's where you see like the idea of purgatory like really come to the surface is like in the Catholic Church. But like they used to have like these crazy like what there was like a couple caves, like there was a cave in Ireland that they referred to as purgatory. And like this is obviously like myth, but apparently they would like send people in there and like just like the goal was like if they could survive these caves, then like they went into these caves and like battled demons or something, and like if they came out and survived, then like they could move on to the next level of like they thought they'd be like, all right, I'm gonna make it to heaven. And right. Yeah. Yeah. They thought they were fighting demons, but they were just like falling and slipping and like getting fucking sucked into a fucking underwater like cave river or whatever. Sorry, Thierry. So we're coming in. You're coming into the middle of me and Alex trying to understand the world we live in, like just like on like some basic premises of like, are there higher beings? Does God exist? And like, what does it look like in real life? And so like yeah, you're kind of coming in like we're all coming into the middle of this shit. But this Diana bitch is deep in it. And like so one thing she noticed, so this is where it comes together, bro, is like she noticed like there have been like UAP since like these phenomena like they've been like so part of her religious study was like she's like wait what the fuck like these motherfuckers thought there was like flying castles and shit, and these people who would throw these motherfuckers in caves, they would see like fireballs in the sky like flying away, and they'd be like oh that's that guy's soul who we sent in the cave. And they'd be like oh it didn't go well for him, they're like we hope his soul like goes to where it's supposed to go. And Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And there might be some relation there. There might, but like anyway, like this woman like in her like career, she at one point would be like teaches she's a professor, you know, like she's a doctor, so like that part of that is like teaching people and shit. And at one point in the podcast, she's like, "Oh yeah, Sean, I just want to shout out one of my students one time, or real quick." She's like, "This kid, like at the time when I was teaching him all this stuff, like." He was like dissecting it literally and right. Yeah, he was leaning pretty heavy into it, but like he was taking it all apart literally, kind of like we have, bro. Like the way we've taken and the Greek apart and the even deeper like the Hebrew apart and like look at the words and see what it's saying literally. She was like, at first I disagreed with this kid and I was like, I respect like the way you're looking at it, but like as long as you understand the way like modern like theologians view it, like as long as you understand that, we can like appreciate each other's shit. She's like, I just want to say I'm actually wrong and I agree with you now. Like now I see what that kid was talking about, and she was like, you were right. You were right. And like and then she just like continued to explain like all these connections between like, you know, all the texts in the Bible, and like at one point Sean was like she's like, here's the thing, you don't take everything out of the Bible. And she's like, and there are some things from outside of it. And Sean, I don't know, this woman, I don't know. And Sean was asking, Literally, and he was like, I think I'm getting into heaven. He's like, I think I'm fucking getting into heaven, lady. I don't need your advice. Yes. And but she talks about like Plato and like how Plato like wrote this thing like about I don't know, just like challenging the power structure and like oh, and what what led her to this like curiosity was when she was 11 years old, like in their church they talked about that scene in the Bible where like Jesus rolls up and these like people are about to like stone this lady for whatever reason, and Jesus was like, all right, whoever has like whatever, like there you go. And what she was like, okay, so like this whatever this guy is all about, like can override like the government and like override the law of man, because the law was that the woman gets stoned, but whatever forces that Jesus was operating under or like for, like could override that. And that's just like, yeah.
Into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover.
Right, you can't just let this woman walk free for, like fucking sneezing or whatever she did, you know? Like, right, and like, but that shows, bro, like kind of like how like the law of man was like used to oppress women, like women for a long fucking time, bro, and like that's part of this shit. It's like, yeah, bro, there's both forces at play, dog. Like, and imagine, bro, imagine like if there was, like, just imagine if there was like a divine feminine force that was being oppressed. Imagine how pissed off she's gonna be when she comes back. You know what I mean? Like, just fucking imagine. Yeah, and yeah, and he was trying to warn us. He's like, "Hey, no, maybe we should leave the gal alone." You know? He's like, "Maybe she all right." You know, my girl Mary, leave Mary alone. Mary, cool. She's rolling with us. She's part of the squad. Nobody stoning Mary. Right. And they're just all fucking like holding their rocks. They're like, "Ugh." Yep, yep. He's like, everybody gets one. The next time, I'm probably not gonna be here. Uh, got bigger fish to fry, you can say. He's like, these people are gonna have this view for a long time, actually. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then still, and that's the thing, bro. Like, and how all this like comes back is like Donald Trump taking office and shit. Like, dude, dude, two genders again. Like, Doge is clearing shit out. Have you seen like, it used to be like this little like black girl with curly hair, real curly hair, and she'd like come out for the White House and like give their daily like, yes, press secretary. And the Trump one is this like blonde gal, and dude, like the shit they're doing, she's telling them what's up. Like the black girl, like she was very like she never said shit. Like they just come out and like not say shit. Basically, was their goal. Like this bitch is coming out and she's like, "Oh, dude," she's like, "This is what's up. Elon Musk is fucking gutting the government. That's done, bro." She's like, "Done deal. We don't give a fuck." She's like, "We told y'all this was gonna happen." She's like, "We hear y'all Democrats screaming." She's like, she's like, "This is the like platform we campaigned on." Like Elon Musk went around with Trump saying, "I'm going to gut the government if we get elected." Now that's happening. And she's like, "End of conference." I have no idea. And we have the dumbest kids. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to me, bro. Makes fucking sense to me.